Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. This is Funny Wine Girl, aka Janine Luby. Now, it's been a few weeks since I might have said this, but I always like to say at the beginning of my podcast how I know my guest, and if I don't really know them, how I was connected to them, because I do think I preach about this, but I just think it's important that we are putting ourselves out there, that we're open to meeting people. We're open to keeping connections open. I know sometimes you have to let some people out of your life because they might be toxic, and I get that. But I mean, meeting people, you may meet someone at a mixer or something. You keep their business card. You don't know. A year later, you might be like, "Oh my gosh, I know who works in this sector," or I know who could be helpful to this other friend of mine or to myself. So I do think that's important. I also think it's important just for enriching our lives. The more people we get to know, the more opportunity we get to learn, enrich our lives, we get helped and we can help others. So I will thank my friend Jennifer Partyka. She was a guest. Gosh, I don't even know. Time is going so quickly. It's been over a year, but she spoke about nurses and what they went through. She's a very big advocate for nurses because she says nurse advocacy is patient advocacy. She was on speaking with me. She also helped connect me with Representative Kozarowski, Keir Bradford Gray, who was running for state attorney general, who was a phenomenal guest. I was so disappointed she didn't get the nomination, but it was great to get to know her. And so Jennifer actually helped to connect me with my guest this week. It is Rashida Lovely, and I'm meeting her for the first time, and I cannot wait to talk about all the wonderful things she's doing in the community. So welcome, Rashida.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. And, Jennifer's like this wealth of, I remember having coffee with her and she's like, do you want to interview? Do you want Keir Bradford Gray on your, and I'm like, yes, please. Can you make that happen? And Keir was lovely. I mean, and just such a kick butt woman. I often think about wanting to reconnect and have her on again because I just hope that she's still out there fighting the fight because she was, she's phenomenal. But let's focus on you, Rashida. I don't know too much about you other than what I saw on LinkedIn. So just share a little bit with us about your background, maybe, or if you're from the area, not what path led you here, that kind of thing.
Oh, sure. So I'm actually a transplant. I'm from New Jersey. I was born in New Jersey and kind of raised in between New Jersey and New York. Then I settled back into New Jersey. And then roughly around 2008, 2009, when we had the terrible economy, I had decided to pack up my family and move to Pennsylvania. I'm a biologist by way of education. I worked in the pharmaceutical industry for a period of time. And I decided I wanted to pivot. So when I moved to Pennsylvania with my family, I decided to open up a small business. And that business was really focused on education and science and art. And so I created a subsidiary of that, Newave Studios, which I opened in 2015 in Scranton. And I began teaching there, but I focused on juveniles in the area. And so I consider myself to be a glorified social worker. That's what I call myself.
Okay. That's interesting. I do, one of the things I do is laughter yoga for stress relief. And yesterday I was in Allentown for social workers. It was meant to be tied to Mental Health Awareness Month and for them to lower stress because working in that field, any kind of social work field or any kind of connection and care has got to be it takes a lot of energy from you, I would imagine. You're doing something fantastic, but that's taking a little bit from you as well.
Oh, absolutely. It does. It does take a lot of energy. And since I specifically focus on children, they require so much more care and so much more thoughtfulness. And the demographic that I work with are the underserved children. So they may be struggling with family issues, housing insecurity, food insecurity, behavioral issues. So it does take a lot of effort. But I believe that if we don't tackle the issues in that specific, around that specific demographic, we're going to have a lot more issues in the future. So I felt like that was where I needed to be, and I've been there ever since.
So Newave Studio. So do you have like a physical space or is it more like a traveling kind of thing where you take the program out and about?
Well, actually, I was. It's kind of it's interesting because I teach art as well. So I taught dance and illustrative art as a way to kind of collect the children and get them interested. And so I have my space was located on 533 Wyoming Avenue in downtown Scranton. So I taught dance initially in art. And over time, I was able to get the trust of the families. And so I began filling in those educational gaps that were missing. Some of my kids struggled with reading comprehension, basic math skills. And so usually before dance, we would do tutoring sessions. And then kind of the educational part grew from there.
Oh, wow. So do you still have that location as well or no?
So no, I actually moved. We struggled a little bit with our neighbors because we had so many children, and even so that area is kind of close to Scranton High School, and so we would get many of the kids from the high school after school, and we began noticing some issues with our surrounding neighbors, our fellow business people. So we decided it was in our best interest and the children's best interest to move the location to the west side. And that's currently where the programs are located.
So it's in West Scranton then, right now. Okay. And they can still go to this physical location. And are you still doing the art and the dancing as well? Or are you focusing more on the education?
So I'm becoming an older lady. Uh, so I'm slowing down on teaching some of the dance courses like I used to. It was very physically rigorous. I taught cirque aerial arts for a
Oh,
period of
wow.
and I taught hip hop, things like break dancing, et cetera, et cetera. So a real physical toll on the body. So in our new location, we don't do aerial cirque like we used to, and we don't do the breakdancing portion, but we do basic general hip hop. And I also teach art, illustrative art still. And with our adults, I do a lot of crafting, so like sewing and things of that nature. But with the children, we still do basic hip hop with them, and it's been going strong since 2015.
That's fantastic. I love that you use the arts to kind of draw the kids in because for me, I think I am such a fan of creativity and arts, and it's sad and unfortunate when you see some folks who don't appreciate that or don't see the value because I don't think they're missing out on how that the parts of our brain and our mind that we use to apply to those other subjects.
Yes, and that was one of the main reasons why I thought it would be beneficial to kind of show it as an art space first. So my education, I actually double majored in art and in science, in genetics, and so I thought that it would be a great idea to draw them in using the art because hip hop is cool, drawing is cool, and it took me really no time. It probably took me about 2 years to gain the trust of those kids. And then I could teach them anything and they would be willing to listen. So it was I pat myself on the back. I think it was really a good idea to focus on the arts first, gain their trust, and then pivot to the sciences where now we have a flourishing science program.
That's fantastic. I love that. Do you see them and not just like thinking it's cool and doing it? Do you see some of them really like maybe focusing in on that and being like really good with their talents and wanting to continue that as they get older?
Oh, absolutely. In the very beginning, just the conversations around education, the idea of going to college was so far-fetched. And so over the years, I noticed that now the children's language has really shifted. Now they want to go to the campuses for that exposure. They actually have conversations around what they would like to do once they graduate high school, as far as going off to, colleges, where in the beginning, I would say around between 2015 and 2020, those conversations really weren't happening, but they are happening with the children now. And many of the children that I started off with, as young as 4 years old, are still with me. So I've gotten a chance to see some of these children grow up, and they have moved on. Some of them have moved on and gone to college. We have a couple of kids who are part of the National Honor Society. We even have one child who was accepted to Oxford for an astronomy program. So, and we've seen over the years their academic numbers shift as far as their proficiencies. So we found real progress in their academic lives.
That's phenomenal. I was at I'm sure you're probably familiar with the program, but last night I was the Scranton Area Foundation has the Women in Philanthropy, and I love that a lot of organizations can get funding from them. And one was the STEM program, or maybe it's STEAM, I forget. I think it's STEM though, from Scranton High School, and the program she has with, I think she wants to expand it to high school, but I think maybe it's middle school right now. And the three young women that were there were such wonderful examples of what can happen when they're provided this opportunity that's a little bit different. They were, well spoken, and they asked questions, and they were so mature, and it's just I love that they're doing that, because I think and to a community or an audience that maybe wouldn't have had the opportunity, and I just think that's so important. I'm glad to see them getting the funding and keeping young kids interested in the sciences, especially young women.
Absolutely. And I think it's necessary to have those investments. Years ago, it really wasn't thought of to have too many girls in the STEM fields. And now it's a regular part of the conversation. The language has expanded. And so you can definitely see the shift now, where as before it wasn't so much. And we have a strong, very strong STEM program. Our STEM program started in 2017, and we've actually received congressional awards for our program, which is very exciting for us. We typically have about 25 children who participate every summer, and we have now expanded into partnerships with Geisinger Medical School. Now the Pilot Drone Academy has joined us in partnership, and so we've really been able to shift the conversation within the scope of children of color who don't necessarily have the opportunities because it's very expensive to join STEM programs. And we've even changed the language to really incorporate environmental justice as a part of it. So now our program is called SCEMA. It elevated from STEM, and we're really excited to see where it's going to go in the future.
That's fantastic. So now, where is that program yours, like with yours, or is it a specific school that it's with?
So no, it's our program. It evolved into this, and then we just created these partnerships with other institutions so that we could expand, and that's what's been happening over the last couple of years.
That's fantastic. What would, and just for my own ignorance, I want to understand better, what it would environmental justice then encompass? What exactly would that be about?
So we really have a very strong part of the program that focuses on cleaning up the environment. So we go along the Lackawanna River. We do a lot of cleanups there. And we have a really robust neighborhood cleanup program that is actually headed by both the children and students from the Black Student Union at Scranton University. So that has also evolved into a very solid part of the program now. And I believe we have a 21-day cleanup schedule, and we've actually been able to go to the city of Scranton to discuss what we need in order to help us continue expanding that program. So now, due to our advocacy, we have trash cans along the main streets so that when we do the cleanups, we have a place to take the trash that is now picked up by the city. So we've had a really, I would consider it a great impact on the West Side with our cleanup program, and also horticulture. So that's another part of it that we focus on. And also we have a community garden that's a part of the program. And we have the only robust composting program that's married to the community garden part of the program, and we are working closely with the city of Scranton to expand that as well.
That's fantastic. I absolutely love that. I had done the Restart Scranton project where we picked up litter and created art from the found items and got a grant from the county. And I love that the kids are doing that, because I think that is so important. When they do that, it's like it shows their pride in the city and they're where they live, and then it shows other people. It's such a great example, because we do have a lot of litter around here, so I'm so happy to hear that. That's wonderful. And that community garden, that's fantastic.
Yes, thank you. One of the things that I really wanted to change was, I consider it the compartmentalizing of caring for the environment. A lot of times we focus on Earth Day and we wrap a lot of things around that, but we want to create a culture where the children grow up engaging so much in that part of what I consider a civic duty that it's no longer seen by them as compartmentalized. It's seen as cultural. It's a cultural shift. So our kids, from the beginning of the program till now, have engaged in community cleanups and community gardens and river cleanups for almost, I would probably say, nearly 10 years.
Wow. I love that. And once they start doing, I think it's such a great time to get that instilled in anyone's head because you see, I taught very briefly about 7 years, but I was part-time at King's College and I taught speech and some of the students would admit to like littering and I was like appalled. I was like, excuse me. And the one student said, she said, well, I didn't really get the point of not doing it until they had to like participate in a cleanup as freshmen. And then she kind of like got like that she shouldn't be doing it. So I think when they're, picking up litter early in their lives, they're in the habit now. They know it's not cool to be throwing your stuff all over your trash. So I think I can't applaud you enough for that. I really love that. That's great.
Thank you. Thank you. And we were even able to, which I think is absolutely fantastic, get the students out of the campuses and more into the community because we're located on West Side, where Scranton University is located in downtown area, and it was difficult to get the kids to convince the kids at the university to come off campus, to participate. And now they run the program. So even that for us is leaps and bounds more than what we had expected it to grow into. And we believe it's going to be a larger part of our program moving forward.
That's wonderful. I did see a post I wanted to get to know or a little bit understand better what you do. And I was looking on your LinkedIn and there was something about, now I made my notes and of course I write like chicken scratch, but community-based learning talk that you were working, I guess, with Julie Shoemaker Cohen at the university. What exactly was that about, the community-based learning? I know it was a few weeks ago and it said it was the last one of the year. What is that all about?
Oh, so it was myself and Maureen Gray, and we had discussions around what we do in the community as far as our work in the juvenile space. She runs the NEPA Youth Shelter, and we actually were in the same building when we both started. So I would have the little kids and she would have the older siblings in her facility, and I would teach dance to some of them and education. And so our kids very much intermingled. And then we both kind of grew slightly into different spaces within that niche, but stayed very much connected. So Julie thought it would be a great idea to have us give a talk about what we do in the community and the kids that we connect with. And it ended up being a very robust conversation because I wanted to talk about AI and how that was going to affect behavior in our young people into the future. And that was a very well-received discussion. And we ended up kind of moving in that direction for the entirety of the discussion.
Wow. Now, if I understand right, I think Maureen actually just retired and she did a lot of great work with the youth shelter. Hopefully, I don't know who the new person's going to be, but it's such an important facility to have here in the city. So hopefully that will continue. Do you mind sharing a couple points that you had or what came out of the conversation? Because I think AI is a topic anyone could talk about. I know there's so many opinions and there's varying levels of understanding, and I'm including myself in that. What were some of the points that you shared about how it's going to impact the kids for the future?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I really focus on the age group between 7 and 13. And about at 7 years old, their children become kind of nearly firm in their general behavior. You kind of see what the trajectory of their behavior is going to be. And so I began noticing how they interact with Siri and Alexa and how they began growing friendships. And so I started doing what I consider to be a deep dive on what the trajectories were going to be for children in their interaction with AI in the future, and generations that haven't come yet, which would be generation Gamma. We have Alpha, who should be babies at this point. They're going to nearly be best friends with their AI buddies. And they're going to be less reliant on even online communities to build relationships. And so that is the current trajectory. And in the conversation we had with the university kids, we were saying to them, one of the ways that we can kind of stave off some of that dependence on the AI is by having that firm big brother, big sister relationship that is currently missing for many children. Many of them are given devices to play and to engage in, while families, the parents can focus on other things, maybe cooking and cleaning, and because they need a moment to themselves. But by having that relationship firmed with a big brother, big sister, it means that the children will rely less on those relationships that would reinforce isolation. So it was really a call to action for the university kids to say, hey, while you're taking a moment to engage in environmental cleanups and things of that nature, consider being a big brother, big sister, so that we can have less isolation, especially for kids who may be housing or food insecure.
Wow, that's such an interesting point because I mean, we know isolation is a big issue in this country for all ages, and I know it's a big concern for seniors, senior citizens, and especially after the pandemic, we kind of got in our own little circles and didn't really get out there. So that's anything that we can do to kind of like prevent that, or like you said, the dependence on that is so important. That's yeah, wow, what an interesting point. I wanted to ask you too. I know you talked about the age that you work with, but I also before I hit the record button, I wanted to ask you about. I know that you focus too a lot on Black boys, Black children, and you had said a statement that the education system fails them, and so you want to be there for them, basically, for their energy and all of that. Do you mind talking a little bit about that? But I think it's important that we have these conversations for everyone to succeed. And if there's something different that needs to be done, then we need to hear about it and see how we can help. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about that if you could.
Oh, absolutely, I can. It was one of the, to me, we call it the juvenile reaffirmation program, and it's one of the crowning jewels of our social programs, because we were able to see immediate impacts, positive impacts on our young men. So yes, I do focus on young boys of color, and it's two tracks. So for our young boys, our young ones between the ages of 4 and 13, we really focus on having mentorship and education, because typically I find that young boys of color have a lot of energy, and sometimes in the school system, we adultify them, and we assume that high energy that they seem to exert can be seen as negative. So there's a lot of punishment that goes along with that, and it makes it difficult for them to, one, express themselves, and not to feel apathy. So then their grades go down, and it's very difficult to get them back on track. And that's something that can be seen across all kinds of statistics. It's very well documented at this point that black boys or boys of color struggle in the school system. And so we recognize that that energy that they have needs to be allowed to be expressed, so that, one, it's out of their system, and two, then they can direct their focus back to their education, which is necessary for them to be productive later on in life. So with our after school program, we allow them to get all that energy out. We have male mentors who are Black, so they have a sense of reflection, because in the school districts, there tends not to be very much representation when it comes to males of color. And so, you might get a coach here or maybe a math teacher there, but that's not enough. So we try to make sure we have enough different types of men of color who mentor, so that the kids get a large range and large representation for them outside of school on a daily basis. So our program is after school. And we try to ensure that we touch specific bases. So we have our mentorship, we have our activities, both creative and physical, and then we focus on education, and we hit those 4 points every day. So now we are reinforcing what sometimes the school districts cannot. And it's not any fault of their own. It is very difficult to give one-on-one energy and time to a specific student, but that's something that we can do as a community organization. So that is our focus. So that's that one track, and that is to help ensure that those boys get what they need. And I'll say this too, and it's not something that we discuss openly, but for many of our boys, they live in homes where the father is not present. And because of that, between school, where it's predominantly women teaching, and at home, where there's typically just a mother, they have no interaction with a male figure who understands them or who looks like them. So that requirement that we have for our mentors to be of color and to be male is what we consider the core of what we're offering, something that can't be replicated in any other capacity. So that's the one track. And then we have our boys who unfortunately have grown up a little bit, who've gone through the system, usually the pipeline from school to prison, and we work with them to rehabilitate. So we go into the local jails, Lackawanna County, and we either work to have them taken out with the help of the courts and probation. And then we work to mentor them and to help them get the basic education, and even things as simple as having a birth certificate and a social security card are things that are typically missing so they can't get employment. So we work to make sure they get those documents, and then we help them find jobs. A lot of the issue we find with these particular boys between the ages of 13 and 21 is that there is income loss in the family. And so a lot of their negative behavior is due to insecurities financially, which usually shows itself as violent tendencies, violent behavior, aggression, because sometimes they live in homes where they don't even have electricity running. So it's very difficult to get your education while you're food insecure, housing insecure, and even in many instances, family insecure. So I'll pause there for a second before I go on to the next part of that, if you have any questions around that.
Yeah, and I'll ask you this, and maybe you're going to get to it. So, but what can anyone listening right now in the Scranton area, and I'm sure there might be other programs outside of here, but I'll focus here in Scranton or northeastern Pennsylvania. What can they do to offer some help to just help you with what you're doing, which is phenomenal?
Thank you. I can say we have received some help from the city of Scranton. They helped us with transportation. That's one of the biggest things, and also bereavement funding. And this is something that many people don't realize is a big problem for this particular demographic and community. There's a lot of violence, and many times within the family, there's even high levels of death. So maybe siblings or parents, immediate family members who may pass away. And there are it's very difficult for family members to be able to even attend funeral services. And so the city of Scranton, in partnership with the city of Scranton, they helped us with funding so that we could handle bereavement for many families. And even something as small as that has been able to help lift families up emotionally, spiritually, and has also allowed us that safe space and be the resource for the family that they need, so they can trust us enough to allow us in a little bit more so that we can focus on that family dynamic. So we're always looking for folks who are interested, if they wanted to donate things like supplies, if they wanted to donate other resources, such as maybe cash. We have a nonprofit where and it's called the Free Foundation. They can donate to that, and we can continue helping with things like bereavement and housing for those families.
Now, when you say supplies, could you just give a couple examples? Are we talking like school kind of supplies or?
So typically things like if they have equipment like tablets, things of that nature, sometimes even things like cell phones, clothing in some instances, basic supplies, hygiene supplies, because many of our boys are housing insecure. And even when we're able to get them out of the jails, they can't go back to their families. So we have to find them, we have to secure them housing and have their basic needs met as soon as we get them out of the jails. So these are areas where folks, if they would like to donate, can. And they can even drop things off at our location in Scranton, 1818 Jackson Street, if they like, because that is our hub. And if they wanted to make donations, they could make it to the Free Foundation. That's also located right here in Scranton.
Okay. And do you have is there a link for that I can include with the podcast show notes? Like, is there a website they can donate on there or?
Yes, they can go to afreefoundation.org and they can donate there. And also, if they're on our Facebook, we have an organization that's called NEPAPAC. It's the Northeast Pennsylvania Pan-African Coalition. That is the execution arm of our organization. So they handle the day-to-day operations. Free is more of our financial arm. And so NEPAPAC really executes the program. So if you follow us on our NEPAPAC page of Facebook, we usually put donation links there, and people can follow the page for upcoming events and programs that we're running.
Okay, excellent. All right. Well, then I'll let you continue. I know you were going to move on to your next point, which I appreciate.
So now so when we're able to get the boys out of the jail, we start a process. We call it the pipeline to productivity. They are immediately assigned a mentor if they're not already assigned a mentor in the jail, because we do jail visits to begin the process with them. So when they come out, they're assigned a mentor who is typically older than the mentors we have that work with our younger children. We try to stay age appropriate as we can. So we help them with their birth certificates and getting their social security cards, and then ultimately the goal is to get their driver's license. We hire them to do construction work, basic construction work, under the tutelage of licensed contractors. And we also have a partnership with the trades, the unions. And so we feed them into that pipeline as well. And we also offer transportation for job interviews. And if they're able to secure a job, we help them in the very beginning go back and forth to work. We transport them until they are gainfully employed, and then they are able to take on these things themselves. We also offer housing for them if they're not able to be housed with their families. We put them up free of charge in our network of houses that are meant specifically for these boys in this program. And we've been doing that for the last 2 years. As you can imagine, that is resource intensive, but we have managed to make it work. We have so far successfully gotten 48 boys through the program. We've only had one, and I'll say 1.5 boys who have not successfully gone through the program. And the boys who have successfully gone through the program are gainfully employed. They've gone on to the military. They work wonderful jobs, and they come back to either help mentor or tell us where they are in their journey. So we're very proud and excited of what we've accomplished so far. And I'll say lastly about this program, we do not have a bottom. So some organizations will not work with some of the boys that we work with. We don't care if if you have a murder charge. It doesn't matter to us. Our goal is to transition children from whatever state they're in to a productive state. And we also try to ensure that their mental health is also a part of the transition. And so we work with Better Health, which is an online app that we use to help them with their therapy sessions. All of the therapists are licensed in the state of Pennsylvania, but we use this resource because it is cheaper than the traditional therapy. And we know that in Scranton Counseling Center is inundated with so many families, and they can't keep up with the workload. So we found this as a cheaper and more efficient avenue to ensure that the boys get the mental health that they need.
Would you say it also helps with maybe any kind of, we know there's stigma around mental health for a lot of different, a lot of people. But with this, I imagine they can do it kind of discreetly on their own, right?
Absolutely. And again, it's about that exposure. We try to ensure that our program is completely reflective. So all of our mentors, all of the authority figures are people of color, specifically of African descent. So there is a level of trust that's typically given to us because we share their cultural backgrounds and we're able to understand them. And typically, we know many of their family members. So there is a relationship that is already existing for us. And it makes it easier for us to get them to trust us enough to allow them to go through that process.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So is it possible that another way the community could help you too is, organizations or businesses who could hire these guys once they're ready to be hired?
Yes, absolutely. So we hire them temporarily through stipends. We give them stipends because many of the boys are not actually of age. So, and this is where it can kind of get a little bit scary. Some of our boys that we work with who are in the jails are as young as 13 years old. So they can't technically even be employed. So we use a stipend system, and their mentor and our construction leads will teach them basic skills, and then we'll give them a stipend. But for the boys who are legally able to work, if there are jobs that's available, especially if they're close, it makes it very easy for us to transition them into a job, which makes it less likely that they will want to go back to any kind of street life or street engagement.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that sounds like a phenomenal program. Honestly, everything you're doing, honestly, I want to applaud you and say this is fantastic. You're providing something that is so needed, and obviously you're passionate about it, I can tell. Um, as we start to wrap up here, is there anything else that you would like to share, whether it's something the community can help with, something you would like them to understand better or take the time to learn, anything like that maybe we haven't talked about? I want to give you that opportunity.
Sure, thank you. So I try to scream it from the rooftops. We're really trying to shift gears and focus on the housing crisis. That's where we are now. And because we've noticed over the last few years, there's been such an increase in housing insecurity. And we've had family after family who sometimes just park in front of our facility to get Wi-Fi and food and things of that nature, but they're living in their vehicles. And so our goal is to shift gears and kind of focus on creating the type of housing that's necessary, that's affordable, energy efficient, and that's technologically advanced so that we can tackle what we consider the real problem, which is the cost of living. And so if we can address those things, we think that a lot of the other things will go away, because poverty breeds dysfunction ultimately. And so we are working on a green technology project, both in the city of Scranton and in Wilkes-Barre. We are building the first well, this is the first attempt at what we call living housing. So the housing that we're attempting to build here is housing that's regenerative, so it self-heals. We're talking about housing that works on all green technology and green energy, so solar, geothermal, and atmospheric water generators. So it will be, although on grid, it can also be off grid if necessary. Also, there is a blockchain component to this. So in order to generate revenues to keep it affordable, we will capture environmental data such as carbon emissions and energy use. We're going to feed it to a marketplace to generate revenues so that we can continue building into the future. So ultimately, in the city of Scranton on the south side, we're aiming to build the first housing of this kind.
Wow. Well, you just blew my mind. I don't even understand half of that, but it's like that's amazing though. Like, so do you have like certain experts who do this? Because that sounds pretty advanced, like things we don't really have here in the city yet, unless I just don't know about them. Do you have certain companies who do this or certain experts that are helping that you're collaborating with?
Absolutely. So this was something that came through Congressman Cartwright's office in 2024, where it was a collaboration of organizations, both businesses that work for the Department of Defense, community organizations, myself and others. Inventors. I'm actually an inventor as well. And so we collaborated and came up with what we consider to be a real solution to tackle housing insecurity on a systematic level. So yes, there are folks like the Moses West Foundation. He builds atmospheric water generators. He has moved his facilities here to Pennsylvania in the Luzerne County area. We have the Bloxton Group, and they do data collection. And we actually are focused, our nonprofit is focused on creating the blockchain portion of the project. Our C-suite folks, which includes myself, are technology and networking buffs. Our CTO is a 16-year vet with the military who has cybersecurity and networking and cryptology experience in her 16 years. So there's a lot of folks on the underground who's been working avidly on this for the last few years, and we're getting ready to bring this online. We should begin construction in 2026, and then we'll have a plan for both counties, Luzerne and Lackawanna, to duplicate it come 2027.
Wow, that's amazing. Honestly, I'm blown away. That is so impressive. That's fantastic. I didn't even know that was going on here in northeastern Pennsylvania. That's wild. That's fantastic. So I will put in the show notes. People can, if they really want to connect with you or help, is the best way for them to go on the Facebook page. Is that the way that would be the easiest for you for them to reach out if they want to offer some kind of help?
Actually, yes, they could if they wanted to do it that way. The NEPA PAC page is very popular. A lot of folks go there, and they can also just email us at info@afreefoundation.org if they want to go directly to the nonprofit. And honestly, you can just Google innovative housing project in Scranton, and a lot of news articles and things of that nature will pop up, and folks can kind of follow along. I'm sure there will be more articles written about the project in the next 6 months or so.
That's wonderful. Well, for anyone listening, just please keep this in mind. At the very least, hopefully you've learned something, but if you can help in the way of, a monetary donation or donation of supplies, or if your business or organization could, employ one of these young men or something like that, that would be fantastic. So I want to thank you so much for your time, Rashida. This is phenomenal. And wow, Jennifer did not steer me wrong. You're like, oh my gosh, blow me away here. Like that mind must never stop, I'm guessing, right?
No, it doesn't. And I'll say lastly too, just focusing on like the patents and things of that nature. It's been a heck of a process for me. I've never attempted a patent before. This is the first time, and it's blowing my mind the things that I'm learning in the background. But it's exciting times. I think we're going to find in the next couple of years, there's going to be an explosion of innovation happening within this community care space. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Now, what for your patent, which piece of it is, I know you said you're an inventor. What piece of it is yours that you're getting the patent for?
So it's a device called the Bloxy, and that's that AI and a blockchain-driven device. It actually goes into an electrical panel, and it does a deep dive for about 6 months. It learns how residents live, and then it takes over their systems. So their HVAC, their electrical. Once it learns, it creates a more of an efficient living model for them. And then the data that's collected, it goes into that marketplace, and then we generate revenue so that we can do more construction in the future. And then on the systems side, we have a companion device called the Bloop, and the Bloop is it goes into a panel box for the residents, and it offers them free Wi-Fi, so they will have free Wi-Fi, and it will collect their information, and then it will feed it anonymously to that same market, and then we will generate revenue so that we can keep offering new and free services for families. And it's also a way for us to keep their rent really affordable, because our aim is to have it to the median household income of the cities in which we build. So it's even down to the micro level how we maintain the rents and keep them fair, because we realize that focusing on inflation and things of that nature is not really where you're going to be able to make a difference. You're going to have to focus on folks' actual wages. You need to bring their cost of living based on the wages that exist for them today, and not what is happening in the marketplace. So this is one of the main ways that it can be done. And we're going to prove to both the counties and the state that this model will work. So we're working on that diligently now.
Wow. Have you heard anything from the governor's office, or has there been anything about, because this is very innovative, I would imagine would get their attention.
Yeah, so we recently had a conversation with the Lieutenant Governor's office. Oh, and I didn't state, I'm actually on the Environmental Justice Board for the Department of Environmental Protection. So we're having conversations there, and we've been having conversations with our county. So now we are in partnership with Luzerne and Lackawanna County to start these pilots. So there's a lot of excitement, and we do have support from those counties, and we're talking to our senators and our congressmen around this. But this was really spearheaded by Congressman Cartwright. He's a visionary, and when he put us all in the room together, he knew what he was doing.
Mm, wow. So, and I said I was going to wrap up, but I'm going to ask a question, and maybe I shouldn't. Are you concerned, or are there concerns given how shall I put this, the current administration and what's being cut? Because many of us are concerned because a lot of good things are being cut. Or is this more like as long as you have the focus in the county and the state, you feel comfortable? Where do you stand on that? Are you concerned, or how are you going to maneuver that going forward, or navigate, I should say?
So we definitely had some struggles with the new administration. Congressman Cartwright brought us in so that we could apply at the federal level. That was the goal. And so we did apply at the federal level for 3 different EPA grants. And unfortunately, there was such a swift shift with the new administration that everything in the EPA was gutted. And as a matter of fact, we just got a notice yesterday that the last EPA grant that we applied for has been gutted. And so none of the EPA grants that we applied for, even the ones that we were awarded, we have to give back. So we have shifted gears, and we were told before he got into office, like right around the time when he was getting inaugurated, we were told quickly shift gears and look to the state and look to the counties, because they didn't see a way forward, and they were correct. There was no way forward on the EPA side with the administration, unfortunately. So we were hit. We were blindsided by some of it, but we did shift gears, and now we do see a path forward with funding for part of the project now through the counties. And we are so appreciative to Lackawanna and Luzerne County for also understanding the vision and seeing how it will impact the community and shifting to partnering with us so that we can keep this project moving forward.
Is this something that you've tried or would like to try to get maybe the eye or the catch the attention of like a private investor or something like that? Or is that, and I don't even know what that entails. I'm just thinking all those folks with the deep pockets, maybe.
Well, it's interesting you say that. We got a communication about a private investment company in Dubai. They are offering grants for innovations like this. And so we're currently applying to them. The award will be given in Dubai, but it is for folks around the world. So we are applying for that as we speak. And I feel confident that we have a good chance of getting that. And with that grant, it's actually larger. Well, not as large as, because we applied for the community change grant, and that was $23 million. This one is a bit smaller, but I don't think we'll have a lot of those same issues that we're having now with the current administration. And that grant is set at $1 million. We currently need, just to do the buildings, it's called Welby Court. So we're building Welby Court in Scranton on the south side, right next to the South Intermediate public school. And that project costs us about $3.8 million. So we are looking to do stacks, and we're working on that. And we're confident we should have the funding by the first quarter of next year.
Wow, that's good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And you'd never know about those setbacks from hearing you, because you sound hopeful, you sound passionate, you don't sound like a defeated person at all. And I think, quite frankly, this should be something. And I know some of my friends roll their eyes or whatever, but folks out there is a lot of crap going on and a lot of things that are being cut and stopped, but that doesn't mean we stop. We have to keep moving and find new ways to manage and change what needs to be changed and put positive and hopeful things out there. And you certainly sound hopeful that you're moving forward. And I think that's phenomenal.
Thank you so much. And I'll say I'm a Black woman. And as a Black woman, we understand disappointment on levels that many can't possibly conceive. So for me, yes, it is disappointing. And I shedded a tear. I had a few tears. But this is for the greater good. And I know that this is a solution that will work. So I would never allow even something as huge as the new administration to stop what I know is going to benefit my community, which I love and where I live and I want to give benefit to.
Wow. Well, I have nothing better to say than that. So I'm going to leave it at that because that's perfect. So thank you so much, Rashida. Anyone listening, please learn about this. This is fantastic and just very interesting. I almost had like we cover like two different, really a lot of stuff. Let's put it this way, a lot of phenomenal stuff. I'm so glad Jennifer connected us. Again, I want to thank you for your time and for sharing all of this stuff that honestly I didn't know about. And I think a lot of people listening, it will be their first time learning about it. And I think it's something we should all learn about. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone listening. Keep on listening. You know my little spiel. I like to say every week I like to amplify the voice of different women. You know, last week I had my friend Oliver, and I always say he is the only man who gets a free pass to be on this podcast anytime he wants because he's like one of my besties. I love him, and he's a fan who listens all the time. And I also wanted to have him share his story of change, moving, relocating, having to find a new home, having to try to sell an old home, having to find a new job. It's a lot of change, and I think a lot of people could relate to that. So, and going forward, I have Jennifer Estelle. I've mentioned her. She owns the Endless Mountain Vineyards, and she has a great vision, and she's working on it. I can't wait to share her story with you, and so many other fantastic women coming up. So, I want to thank you again. And if you're interested in helping to support these kind of conversations and content, please consider being a podcast sponsor. Like, you know, my two supporters that I absolutely adore, Emily Hickox of Budget Through Life. She's a podcast sponsor. Reinvented Threads with Gabby Lynn. I want to thank them for their support. If you're interested, please reach out to me. It's cheaper than a coffee addiction. So if you have a coffee a day for a month, it's cheaper than that. There are many packages. So I'll close there and say, I thank you. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.